what happens, even if you rebalance the moons, there's always going to be some sort of top of the bottleneck thing. The worst thing about it is that if you have moons as an income, because the player-owned stations mechanics are such a nightmare, that means that in order to harvest that alliance-level income, which of course goes into the wallets of the few, you have all these logistics people who are basically wandering around hammering nails into their balls, suffering through. You know.
Bolton fucked up the stream.
Hold on. Okay, is it working? My stream sort of fucked up for a second. Give me like 5 seconds. It's working. Okay, I think it's working. People are telling me no, it's totally broken, so obviously they can hear me. Excellent. All right, continue. Now, I think that particularly the Mittani's comment on his obvious what would be animosity towards PL and NC Dot, which are, by the way, blue. Test Alliance, a primary member of the Clusterfuck Coalition, I think really excellently illustrates a point in that right now, it's the only thing keeping people enemies is sort of the end, very basic, at the end of the tree profit mechanisms, whereas like CCP Sounwave is looking for like base level primary reasons to be enemies, which I think there need to be more.
I sat down and I read through all these like awful psychological experiments from like the 50s and 60s.
I'm an anthropologist. I've read through all of them.
Yes, and you kind of go through them, and you kind of on one hand think, wow, it's really awful that people were allowed to do this back in the day, but you also kind of think these would fit really well into EVE Online.
Yeah, things like the prison experiment and Milgram's authority, and yeah, I know you're getting into all the transactional analysis stuff. The thing that another illustration of what is actually, this is some high-level alliance negotiations that are actually happening today. Just to reinforce the point I was making earlier, we have a situation here, of course, where Goonswarm and Raiden are going at it in Branch and possibly in Tenal, and there are many parties that are, and this was actually making NC Dot kind of worried, because we had this under the table agreement, and NC Dot is like, well, we're in tribute. And what happens if, after a hypothetical war in Tenal, what happens, maybe when you're going to come, or Razor's going to come and invade tribute? And there's actually been a tremendous outbreak of diplomacy from certain parties within PL, certain parties within TESS, certain parties within Goonswarm, to provide reassurance that no, really, we should all just keep doing what we're doing, which is not messing with each other, not going after each other's regions, not doing anything rash, such that we can all just keep profiting from Technetium. And that's happening today. So this kind of, you know, not only are there under the table agreements, but when someone risks breaking those, when one party risks breaking that kind of agreement, everybody else comes together to try to make sure that everybody just keeps it on the down low. Yeah. And that's not the EVE I was playing in 2007.
As a diplomat within TEST, we never get missions where it's like, all of our missions are, get friends with these people, make friends with these people. We never get, yo, pick a fight with these guys. And it would be wonderful if I got a message where, yo, fuck with these people, pick a fight with them, so we can make a profit, and it's good for our alliance. I would love to receive that message on our Diplomat Jabber. I would love that more than anything else in EVE Online.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, I keep thinking about, like, watching European soccer, and watching some of these clubs that really hate each other, and you see, like, I mean, you have the players on the field, of course, and you have your really, really important people, but then you have, like, a load of fans, kind of like your alliance member that doesn't necessarily do much. You look at the stands, and you have, like, the right side is, like, completely clad in green, and the left one is, like, clad in red, and in between them you have, like, rows and rows and rows of police officers keeping them off each other. And that's really what being neighbors in EVE Online should be about.
Exactly. I feel like that's absolutely true in every way.
And we used to have that. We absolutely used to have that.
Yeah.
And we don't anymore.
No, I completely agree. And I think we need to deal with it. I think that redoing POSs is part of it. That's like a part of from the stuff we're doing right now, of course. Like I really want to redo the Vortex system. I really want to redo faction warfare, and we're doing that. But next on the list for me is POSs, and I know that Grayscale has been itching to mess with these things for years, and yeah, I'd be unsurprised if that was next, and I really want to do that. And with that, well, let's just change the entire shebang. Let's change the moons, change the POSs, just change this into a world
if we
where
could finally get the Dead Horse modular POS system that everybody's been talking about for years, combined with a removal of towers being moon miners or some sort of massive revamp of the moon system. Hell, that would be great. I mean, the war expansion is probably, like the faction stuff that you guys are talking about, is probably, what, March, April-y? I don't know. The CCP release schedule is kind of funky. I don't know. But
now, that's an excellent question to iterate off of. In that, obviously you want to fix the POS system, because currently everyone knows that POSs are a nightmare, things like that. What do you envision, not necessarily what you're going to do, but your ideal POS system, what would you like to see from that?
I mean, our ideal POS system is kind of what Mittani mentioned, modular one. It has to be, for me, it has to, first of all, be desirable for any player on any level. Like, a POS should be like your house in Skyrim. Like, everyone wants to have a POS. And they need to scale from something that you put up and it costs you 1 million ISK a month, and you have like a little captain's quarters, you have your little stuff you can put up, to the Alliance level, like, monster POS that has like 3 times the guns, 3 times the modules, and has like a warp ride. Like, it has to go from it has to scale from something that you just put on in 5 minutes and kind of live out of, to something that just kind of appears in your space and is kind of like the big ram just punching your castle down. And we kind of need to
truly be able to live out of a plot in every ideal way.
Yeah, it should be like a natural part of your life. It should be like everything from your personal housing to the battering ram you break other people's face with.
I think that would be great. I mean, that the natural evolution of we have a I know this is going to be unpopular to say, but we do have a lot of code and a lot of effort has gone into the captain's quarters and things like that. And it seems like a natural evolution of using some of that is in a hypothetical Dead Horse or POS and Moon revamp expansion after this next one. If that happens, having a player on station that you can actually dock in and walk around in and what have you, I think that would appeal to a lot of people.
Well, I think that ideally, like in that,
like a house in Skyrim. The house in Skyrim analogy is pretty much exactly what you want, because people do crazy things with that.
I think that a lot of people are excited about the things that CCP has talked about within Karna and Walking Station, like services and sort of player-owned gambling establishments and drink establishments and things like that. But I think that it would actually be really cool to have sort of like, there's the police-owned official establishments, and then there's sort of like the crazy establishments where hookers will do whatever you want, things like that. They're owned in the player establishments, because obviously those are a little bit more Wild West than people. By the way, whoever just said Bolton is beta, Golar Crexus, I'll destroy you. Don't even think I won't.
I think that, what I would really like to see is flying in space getting enough love, of the kind of love that we've gotten with Crucible and Crucible 1.1, which is just the best expansion we've had in years. And, getting things fixed enough in the spaceship part of the game that we can actually try to get something, again, this is tremendously unpopular, but to get something useful out of the investment that was put into Incarna. Because if it's just a sunk cost that is never revisited, I don't think it should be revisited until the actual game of Eve is the spaceship bit has been lifted up across the board and all these issues have been dealt with. But I'm not averse to the idea of it getting picked up again and worked on.
No, and I think one thing Mittani said that's exactly right is that if Incarna turns out to not be anything, this will have been terrible investment that will have benefited no one, and least of all the players, because that's a lot of money going into stuff that you won't use. I mean, the best thing that could ever happen was that Incarna turned out to be useful at some point, and you know, we have a team working on it. You know, when we did Incarna, we had a lot of teams working on it. We have just a handful of people just trying to see what they can do with it, and I think that's a great approach. The majority of our people are doing spaceship stuff like they should, but not having a handful of people looking into what they can do with multiplayer environment and so forth would be pretty dumb.
I have actually. Let me jump in here. Sorry about this. I just had an idea that I've been meaning to harass Stauffer about. Compact local, extremely popular. Everybody loves compact local. The obvious.
I'm playing Eve and I want to do this kind of thing.
The other follow-up on compact local that is inevitably mentioned, and I would like to get your opinion on, is the idea of having in addition to the compact local, just having a little counter of the numbers based on standings there. So, you know, you have this list of local, and there's like 1 billion people in local, and it would say, you know, 30 hostile, 30 neutral, 30 friendly.
Yeah, that was actually our. So when we launched Incarna initially, we had to do a lot of rethinking about local because being in the same system station and all that stuff didn't match so well together. So we actually, from a technical standpoint, were possibly needing to change it, and that was the possible alternative. So we turned chat into an actual chat, and instead of seeing what standings people were in chat, you'd basically have a positive, neutral, and negative counter in every single system. And I think if we ever decide to kind of rip out the intel part of the chat and turn it into a chat, that would definitely be a viable alternative.
Now, I would like to know, when are we going to see compact guest chat in stations? Because that's really irritating as well, having to log into stations. Now that I have compact chat, now I'm going to scroll through all the pictures of everyone in a station.
Yeah, I don't know. Someday, my friend, someday.
Someday.
Compact all the things.
I want to see all the information even online in a single page when I log in. I want to see 100 chat windows I can easily scroll through, all that sort of stuff. Now, a lot of people, while we're on the topic of local window, a lot of people have been pushing a delayed local window to sort of increase the effectiveness of small gangs. Maybe a local window that's relative to the amount of people that have recently jumped in the system. Say they have a short delay, the more people have jumped in. What are your opinions on that, CCP Sounwave?
I think the majority of players will absolutely hate it, although I find it charming.
Now, does that affect your ideas on the development process of that feature?
Yes, absolutely. If there's one thing that you can see from the bad things we've done, is that if the majority of the players don't like it, it's typically a bad idea.
Okay, that's a reasonable explanation. Whitetree, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about delayed local and improved tools for like an additional plus neutral plus negative. The idea in and of itself isn't that bad, but the idea of making the lives of radders even easier is not necessarily something that I'm really cool with. I mean, the bottom of the barrel PvP is by people who tackle radders. You know what I mean? And their life is already really crap right now because of the proliferation of something else in the game, specifically body. So anything that makes their lives harder, I wouldn't necessarily think.
Yeah, and I think the risk versus reward setup we have right now isn't accurate.